Shalom, Debbie G here from End of Time Prophecy channel here on YouTube. And thank you so much for watching my little studies. And this is part 3 of our study about the 144,000. In my previous study, part 2, I shared with you guys why Yah has chosen his special group, because they are the answer to the question, who is able to stand when the great day of their wrath has come in Revelation 6. And they are the answer to the question, who is able to make war with the beast in Revelation 13. And the answer is the 144,000, Yah's end time army. And I believe that Paul refers to this special group as well when we see like 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 15 and 1 Corinthians 15 51 to 53, because he talks about not all will die, but we will all be raised. Not all believers will die. Many of us will die, but there is this special group that will remain alive until the coming of Yeshua. In part 1, I explained why the 144,000 are not literal Jews or Israelites, as so many would like to believe. Because recently I saw a study of Leland Jones where he mentioned the 12 tribes had 4 mothers. 2 of them were from the line of Abram, but 2 of them were pagan mothers. So even the 12 tribes themselves had non-Jewish, non-Israelite mothers. So it could have never been just about literal Israel, even though they had that part in Yah's plan. So in this final part, I would like to share the character traits of this special group. And as you can see, I have found 6. And we're going to mention them. We're going to look at them one by one. First of all, they are the redeemed from the earth, and therefore first fruit. They are they which did not defile by women, for they are virgins. They follow the Lamb wherever he goes. In their mouth was found no guile. They are without fault, and they wash their robes in the blood. So let's take a look at them one by one. They are redeemed from the earth. Actually, this isn't so much a character trait. This is actually just a privilege given unto them to be ransomed, redeemed from the earth. The word redeemed in Greek is agorazo, and it means to buy, or actually to be bought in a marketplace. So in a sense, Christ is said to have purchased his disciples. And by that, he has made us his property. You are bought with a price, the Bible says. You can read it in 1 Corinthians 6 verse 20, 1 Corinthians 7 23, and 2 Peter 2 verse 1. And let's not forget, in Revelation 1, he calls us bondservants. In Greek, it's doulos, and it means a slave or a bondservant. And a bondservant is not just a normal slave. A bondservant is someone who has been a slave, but then has decided out of his free will to remain a slave for this master. And in a sense, this is what we're doing as well. We have given ourselves over to Yeshua being our master voluntarily. Mark 10 verse 45 reads, "For the Son of Man also came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." So therefore he paid the price to release the people from sin. Just a couple more verses on redeemed. You see Titus 2 verse 13 and 14. I'm just going to read 14. "Who gave himself for us, that he might redeem us from all iniquity, and purify unto himself peculiar people, zealous of good works." So there you go. This is why he came, to redeem us. Revelation 5 verse 9, "And they sung a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals, and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood, Now, who is the they in this verse? Actually, when you read in the previous verse, the they is the 24 elders and the 4 heavenly beings, the 4 creatures as it's written. And they sing this song, as I understand, because they represent Yah's people on earth. Because the 24 elders are those who came out of the graves when at the resurrection of Yeshua. We can read that in Matthew 27, 52 and 53. And we know from the writings of Paul that when Yeshua went to heaven, he took captives with him, as you can read in Ephesians 4, verse 8. So therefore, I believe the 24 elders represent those on earth. The heavenly beings, the 4 beings, they represent the earth as well. And maybe even Old Testament believers and the 24 elders New Testament believers, because back in the days the 12 tribes were divided in 4 areas around the tabernacle: north, east, south, west, and every direction had a banner. Like in the north you would have a banner with the sign of the eagle on it. On the east you had a banner with a lion on it. On the south you had a banner with a lion with a man on it. And in the west, you had the ox on it. And we see the same 4 creatures with the heavenly beings. They have 4 faces with the eagle, the lion, the man, and the ox. So again, I believe they could represent Old Testament believers and the others New Testament believers. But that's just my opinion. They are first fruit. First fruit in the Old Testament is Reshit. It means first, beginning, best, or chief. You can look at Jeremiah 2, verse 3, where it says, Israel was holy to the Lord, the first fruit of his harvest. So, let's have a look at first fruit in the New Testament. The Greek for first fruit is aparche, and it has 3 meanings. It could mean to offer first fruits. It could mean to take away the first fruit of the productions of the earth, or the first portion of the dough. But the third meaning is very interesting, because it says a person superior in excellence to others of the same class. And this last one, I believe this is what the 144 refers to, because they are superior amongst their fellow believers, same class, and they are consecrated to God. And that is why they have no guile. The 144,000 are called first fruit for 2 reasons, I believe. First, they will be the first fruit of the harvest. And second, they are called first fruit because they are a sample of what will follow. So if barley was presented as first fruit, the harvest that would follow it would also be barley. The same way the 144 and the great multitude that come after them, they are identical in a sense that they are both in the book of life, as we can read in Revelation 21. We also need to remember that if you read Leviticus 23, you would read that the first fruit was offered to the high priest. And when it was offered to the high priest, it was the property of the high priest. In the same way, Yeshua being our high priest in heaven right now, when the first fruits are offered to him, they become his. And it's a good thing to be in his hands, because he will never lose who belongs to him. A couple, or actually one more verse about first fruit. This is James 1. I took this one because I believe it shows the process of the people of Yah. Let's just read a couple verses. This is verse 1, 2, 3, and 4, and verse 12 and 18. Verse 1 says, James, servant, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. Now, do you think he wrote this letter to the literal tribes? I don't think so. He wrote it to his fellow believers, which he called the 12 tribes. He knew the principle of spiritual Israel. Let's see. He says, just read verse 2 and 3 and 4, because it describes the process of the believer. It's when you fall into temptations, that's because your faith will develop. It will develop perseverance. And in 12, it says, God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. Do you remember Philadelphia? And afterward, they will receive the crown of life. When Yeshua returns in Revelation 19, on his head are many crowns. And this is why? Because he's going to give all of his people the crown of life. And 18, of his own will he brought us forth the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruit of his creatures. So there you go. Point number 2, they which are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. Virgin, the Greek word is parthenos, and actually it means a maiden, by implication, an unmarried daughter. A woman who has never had sexual intercourse with a man. Now some say, I'm sorry, I start to smile, because many times I heard the interpretation of these verses, and they say they are virgins, they have not been defiled with women, so these must be young men who never had sex. But prophecy is given in symbols, and therefore it's up to you and me to decipher the symbols and what Yah is really trying to say in these verses. So again, virgin means parthenos. It could either mean an unmarried daughter, or to a man who has abstained from all uncleanness and whoredom attended on idolatry. So back then the writers already knew it wasn't referring to a literal virgin, a woman, but it was given to someone who has committed spiritual adultery. From the 13 verses that the word parthenos is used in the New Testament, only once it was applied to a man, and even in that verse, it can be men or women. So for those who want to take this literal, a virgin is a woman most of the time. And therefore you could say the 144 are women, but that's not the case. Because if you look at Acts 1, you see in the upper room, the 120 were men and women. And so Yah's end time army will be men and women serving Yah until the end. What is a virgin in prophecy? Actually, in the New Testament, we have actually just one verse that gives us a clue, which is 2 Corinthians 11 verse 2. It says, I'm jealous for you with a godly jealousy, for I promised you to one husband to present you as a pure virgin to Christ. That's what Paul writes unto the Corinthians. And in Colossians 1 verse 21-22, he shows the same principle. He says, but now he has reconciled you by Christ's physical body through death, to present you holy, unblemished, and blameless in his presence. So that was the purpose of all. So when you understand that a virgin in prophecy is a true follower of Yeshua, you see that it can both be men and women. It's funny because when you look at the 10 virgins parable, in every children's Bible, you see 10 women. But unfortunately, that's not the right image they're showing, because again, the 10 virgins represent 10 believers. Now, the Old Testament has virgin is in Hebrew Betula, and in Greek it has different meanings. But this time in Hebrew, it only has one meaning, which is virgin. So the first time virgin is used for God's people is in 2 Kings 19:21. And the same story is written in Isaiah 37:22. And out here, it's a positive thing. But when we come to the book of Jeremiah, things change. You see on the screen Jeremiah 14:17, Jeremiah 18:13, Lamentations 1:15, and Jeremiah 31 verse 4. I'm just going to read some of it because it's a lot. Again, the reading is homework for you guys because otherwise the videos would get too long. For my virgin daughter, my precious people, has been struck down and lies mortally wounded. Virgin Israel has done the most terrible thing. My people have forgotten me. The Lord has trampled the virgin daughter of Judah. So all these verses show that the term virgin is being used to describe Yah's people in this case. And it's not in a good sense. Luckily, we have Jeremiah 31 because it deals with a future promise. It says, I will build you up again, and you, virgin Israel, will be rebuilt. So his people will be rebuilt in the end days. Let's see. I need to go back because the term virgin is not just used for Yah's people, it's also used for other nations. Like Jeremiah 46:11, it talks about, O virgin daughter of Egypt, and Isaiah 47:1, it talks about, O virgin daughter of Babylon. So again, you see the term virgin is being used to describe people. So they are they which were not defiled with women. Again, if you would take this literal, like many do, you could say these are only men, but we have discussed it earlier. So the word defiled in Greek is molinio, and it is used in the New Testament of those who have not kept themselves pure from the defilements of sin, who have soiled themselves with fornication and adultery. So that's not a good thing. And it just brought me back to the people in Sardis. Because there it says, you have a few names in Sardis which have not defiled themselves, their garments, and they shall walk with me in white, for they are worthy. Again, you see, it's not being defiled by women means not defiled with spiritual adultery, spiritual fornication. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe the few in Sardis are part of this special group. They follow the Lamb wherever he goes. This statement alone tells me the 144,000 are not literal Jews or Israelites, because current Israelites and current Jews, secular Israelites, they do not follow Yeshua. It's simple as that. They do not follow Yeshua. I don't even know if they follow their God, so let alone the Messiah that has been sent. In John 6 verse 67, John 8 verse 12, John 10 verse 27, those are the verses where you read that Yeshua is calling people to follow him. And my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. So his sheep will follow him. And they even follow him to the cross. Luke 9:23 and Matthew 19:21. It says, if anyone wants to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. So it's a daily task to take upon you his cross. And this is the principle. You follow Yeshua wherever he goes, and you will go where he is. Right now, at this point, he's in heaven, and one day we will spend 1,000 years in heaven with him to give the land the Sabbath rest that it needs. In their mouth was found no guile. Actually, in the New Testament, only 2 persons are mentioned without no guile, which is, of course, Yeshua. And it's in 1 Peter 2, verse 22. And Nathaniel in John 1, verse 47. He said of him, "Here is a true Israelite in whom there is no deceit." So there you go. Yeshua is the one, and in this case, Nathaniel's the only one mentioned as well, without no deceit. Since the New Testament doesn't have so many verses, I thought I'd check out the Old Testament. And that's where I found the book of Zephaniah. If you read the book of Zephaniah, it deals with the announcement for judgment of Judah. But it also talks about the end days. I would like for you to pause and read the book of Zephaniah, read chapter 3. On the screen, I have verse 11 until 18, because I believe that Zephaniah is describing Yah's end time people. It says in verse 12, "I will leave within you a meek and humble people, and they will trust in the name of the Lord. The remnant of Israel," verse 13, "will no longer do wrong or speak lies, nor will a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth." Let's see. 17, "The Lord your God is among you. He is mighty to save." And this is something we need to remember. In the midst of the beast and his demons, in the midst of the death sentence for those who remain faithful to Yeshua and the commandments, our God is mighty to save. And 18, it says, "I will gather those among you who grieve over the appointed feast." And the last verse caught my attention, and it brought me back to Ezekiel 9, because the sealing after 144 in Revelation 7 is taken from Ezekiel 9. And in a sense, we can add just another character trait, because those in Ezekiel 9 are men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that were done. And we see the same thing here in Zephaniah 3. They sigh and cry. Out here, there are those who grieve over the Moedim. And therefore, Psalm 32, verse 2 says, "Blessed is the man whose sin the Lord does not count against him, in whose spirit there's no deceit." Point number 5, they are without fault. The Greek word for fault is amomos, and it could mean either without blemish, as in a sacrifice, or it could mean morally being without blemish. And actually we see that 144,000 are therefore morally good, without blemish. In a sense, they are like Daniel and Noah and Job, according to Ezekiel 4. Back then, these 3 righteous men could not save anyone but themselves because of their own righteousness. And we know that the book of Daniel will be repeated at the end of earth days. Let's have a look at a couple more verses. Daniel 6, verse 4. And again, I believe Daniel represents Yah's true end time people. But they could find none occasion nor fault, for as much he, Daniel, was faithful. Neither was there any error or fault found in him. How awesome is that? May you and I be part of that statement as well, where one day Yah is able to say that of you and me. Ephesians 5 verse 27, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, a glorious assembly, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. And Jude 24 says, now unto him that is able to keep you from falling and to present you faultless. Of course, to him is all the glory. So he's able to keep his special chosen ones faultless. Point number 6, they washed their robes in blood. That is from Revelation 7:14. All the other points were, of course, from Revelation 14, as I forgot to mention. This one is Revelation 7:14. It says, they are they which come out of great tribulation and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. In Revelation 7, John sees the great multitude. He knows where they come from. But then he sees another group and he doesn't know where they come from, and therefore he asks one of the elders. And the elders tells him, these are they which come out of great tribulation. They are the ones who wash their robes in blood. So I believe that is another character trait of the 144,000. I also wrote John 8 verse 12, where Yeshua says, whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. But in his letter, in his first letter, 1 John verse 1:7, he gives us a bit more information as well. Because he says, but if we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another. And the blood of Jesus, his son, cleanses us from all sins. So there you go. And of course, there's Revelation 12 verse 11. And they have defeated him, the dragon, by the blood of the Lamb and by their testimony. And they did not love their lives so much that they were afraid to die. It made me think of the three friends of Daniel. They weren't afraid to die, but when they were thrown into the fire, they didn't. So again, the book of Revelation shows us two groups. Those that give their lives for their faith, as we read in the souls under the altar, and those who remain alive and defeat the beast and his image. So, are there any other verses about a special group? I believe that Daniel and his book is also written for the end days, as we read. I believe Daniel 11 and 12 are also describing a particular group in the end days. So this is Daniel 11, 32 verse 36. You can read it yourself. I'm just going to read the last one. The people of God will be strong and shall instruct many. Even though they will have to overcome challenges like the sword and flames, they shall be made white unto the appointed time. And Daniel 12 verse 3 says, then, and we're dealing with the end days in Daniel 12 and the end of Daniel 11, then the wise at the end will shine like the brightness of the heavens, and those who lead many to righteousness, they will, like the stars, shine forever and ever. So I believe, again, I'm repeating myself, but Yah has an end time people who will shine, who will understand and bring Yah's truth to those who are meant to hear. And hopefully you and I can be part of that. So I hear you say, what about the people in Philadelphia? because it says they will be kept during the hour of temptation and have the name of God upon them. Could they be part of the 144,000? Let's read Revelation 3 and see what it really says. And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, for thou hast little strength, hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. For thou hast kept the word of my patience, and I also will keep you from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. So many Christian believers take this verse and say, see, here we go, here's the rapture of the church of Philadelphia, because they are kept from the hour of temptation. But if you read it in context, it doesn't say they are kept from the hour of tribulation. So I need you to focus on two words, which is the word kept, tereo in Greek, and the word temptation. Let's see. Kept means tereo, and it means to attend to carefully or to take care of. And that's what Yeshua is going to do. He's going to take care of his people in the end days. And temptations is not tribulation. Temptation is peresmos. And again, it has many meanings. You go dig it out yourself. But one of the meanings is the trial of man's fidelity or integrity or virtue. And that's what we're dealing with here. So Yah is going to keep his people carefully. He's going to take care of them from the hour of temptation that will be amongst his people. And so, yeah, maybe the 144 are the elect of God who have heeded the warnings given to the 7 assemblies in Revelation 2 and 3, because they have repented of their wrong attitudes and behaviors, and therefore they are found worthy to escape the wrath. What's important to realize is that although God's people were unfaithful to God, when we read from Genesis to Revelation, he always had a remnant. And the Hebrew word for remnant is sherit. And you can read some examples in Jeremiah 50:20, Micah 2 verse 12, and Micah 5 verse 8. It says, and the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest. And in the same way, the 144 are God's remnant when Yeshua returns. And to be honest, as I was studying, I was like, oh, Father, how am I to be part of that group? And then I was thinking, I was reasoning like the crowd was responding in Mark 10, verse 26, 27, because they said to one another, who then can be saved? And I was wondering, oh my gosh, who's going to be saved? But then Jesus looked at them and said, with men, this is impossible, but not with God. For all things are possible with God. How wonderful is it that Yah himself has chosen a special army of end times believers to battle against the beast and his image. And I just pray that you and I will be part of that. So some final thoughts. Some say, isn't every believer sealed and therefore part of the 144,000? Ephesians 4, verse 29-30, Ephesians 1, 13 and 14, and Corinthians 1, verse 21-23, they talk about every believer being sealed with the Holy Spirit. But this is different from the 144,000 who are sealed with the name of the Father in the forehead. So yeah, every believer is sealed with the Holy Spirit, but the 144,000 have a different kind of sealing. When will they be sealed? If I understand correctly, They will be sealed after the opening of the sixth seal, because the sealing takes part in the seventh seal, and before the blowing of the trumpets. And the trumpets start blowing in chapter 8. And that makes sense, because when the four winds are loosened, Yah must know who his end time army will be. The final thought I would like to share with you guys is, we need to realize that Revelation 14 is a vision of God's people in heaven. It's a future vision to strengthen the bond service in difficult times. And we see this because they are in the heavenly Zion. How do we know this? First of all, the Lamb, as you can see in verse 1, is in heaven. The Lamb will not be on earth until Revelation 19. John heard a song singing in heaven. He was hearing voices from heaven in verse 2. And verse 3 says, they sing a song before the throne, the 144,000, along with the four creatures and the elders who have been before the throne all along. So again, it's not an image of a raptured church. That's not it. Because again, you need to understand the purpose of this special group. It's not a picture of the believers in the millennium, because again, the millennium, we will not spend 1,000 years on the earth, but we will spend it in heaven. I hope and pray that these studies have shown you that the 144,000 are not literal Jews or Israelites, nor are they raptured to heaven just to have a party of their own. They are Yah's special elite team to stand against the beast and his army. Recently, I saw in a video of Lion of Judah, their YouTube channel, he said, believers are spiritual warriors who fight to win. There is no hero without a battle. There is no conquest without a contest. There is no victory without a fight. There is no testimony without a test, and no miracles without impossible circumstances. And I truly believe this is spot on. So thank you again for watching. I hope you were blessed by it. If you feel blessed, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like or subscribe, but most of all, share the message so we can prepare Yah's end time people. And Yah willing, I will see you next time. Shalom.